Guard yourself against the seductive power of routine. I didn't write that quote. I wish I did. It's actually, that was from a jazz performer. I don't know if that's Coltrane or Miles Davis, but so good to take some gems from like jazz masters, because they kind of perfected the art of like fucking creativity, right? Creativity within a frame. So when I say guard yourself from the seductive power of routine, this is something that's been helping me lately. Uh, if I get too locked in to that everything has to go exactly fucking how I laid it out the day before, right? What does that do? All of a sudden, my tendency, something gets out of line, and then it's so jarring and shaking that it makes me not want to move forward. The best example is like sometimes when that exercise can't happen, like say something gets in the way of that time block, right? Because for me, I still run a business, so it's not completely out of the question that somebody might call me and say like, "Hey, I need you to like move, your day a little bit and come in here earlier. Like, I need help with this thing." So when that happens, all of a sudden I gotta shift my schedule. Now it doesn't mean that every time that happens that I just go, "Well, the day's a fucking wash now. I can't do the shit exactly how I laid it out. I'm gonna fucking give up." You gotta be creative. You gotta improvise. You gotta go, "Okay, cool. What could I do with this? I was going to do these things in between 7 and 9. Now, instead of me going to work earlier, maybe I move these things to 3 to 4. Maybe I go in and I set some shit up and I leave at 2, in between 2 and 4, and I do my exercise and then I come back." So just understand that you're not being disciplined by not being able to break from the original plan. You have to be dynamic and flexible. That's like one of the best skills. If you can pivot quickly, then your plan can change fucking 15 times and you can still get everything done. You can just modulate them around into like new zones. So when you start getting these habits going, I understand what happens is you go like the people said I gotta do them and I missed it, and they're like, so it's so rigid and tense, right? And that's kind of what they mean is like that's that seductive power of routine. Is you can start waking up and going like, "Oh, well, I actually like must have slept through my alarm. I'm 30 minutes late, so I'll just do nothing today and I'll just do it tomorrow. I'll get started back on it tomorrow." That can lead into that happening more days in a row. And that's when you get all out of fucking whack with what is important to you. So just understand, you can stay routined in the big picture. Have some things that you need to get done that day. Create a time block if you're at that point yet. Like I'm at the point where I create a time block every day, but I'm not scared to move that shit. I'm not scared to cross something off it and go, "You know what, that just didn't work in this block. These things took longer than I assumed that they would. I'll move that over onto the next day's schedule at the exact same time, and then I'll work my shit around that." But I don't fucking feel bad. I don't go like, "Oh man, I didn't nail all the stuff that I said I wrote down." I don't give a shit about that. I'm flexible enough to understand if I'm fucking cruising through the things that I need to get done on a daily basis, that the fucking game is the long term, right? So it's the culmination of all these days. It's not those one little instances of like, "Oh man, I can't get that done right now. That might have to go till tomorrow." The other part of that makes total sense is don't get locked into this idea of a to-do list. You guys make your to-do list so fucking long that it's impossible to finish, and then you feel overwhelmed by it. Here's a tip for you. This is what I do every time. Just move it to the next day. Move it to the next day. Don't do that in terms of avoidance. Don't just go, "I'm going to move it to the next day because I don't want to do it." But if you can't do it, just move it on to the next day. Here's a little thing I learned from Jay Shetty about a to-do list. You're going to keep adding to a to-do list for the rest of your life. So never feel like it's done anyways. You're going to make a new one tomorrow, even if you did close all those out. So as much as you should be aiming to get these things done, again, when I talk about balance, that's what I'm talking about. It's like, fill that to-do list up, get to the end of the day, go, I didn't get to these two. Move them on to the next day. It's not a fucking big deal. Still put that hard end in your day of like, "Oh, I got to do these things." Now, of course, there's a lot more working of like prioritization in there. If you want to prioritize some shit, then put those ahead of those on the to-do list. But still, you know the things you need to do daily. It's not that big of a fucking deal if you need to move something that's a little minor task onto a next day so that you can do the things that are priorities for you. So be intuitive. Look at your fucking time. Check your watch. See what's going on with the rest of your day. Analyze your time. Be flexible. Don't get stuck in this rigid, like, I have to do everything like this. Nah, man, improvise. You got to improvise. I played trumpet. I played that shit for my whole life. So it speaks close to my heart. So just remember, when you improvise in jazz, you're still improvising within a frame. You're changing the notes and you have some leeway in there, right? But you still might have a section that is a solo that you're bound to. You still have the piece of music and the key and all that shit. So we're not saying go fucking full tilt and it's like, I don't even follow a plan. Fuck it, I'm listless. No, but you need to improvise within those frames. You got to be creative sometimes. When something's fucking up your flow, you got to be creative. Go, when could I do that? Maybe I could do 30 minutes of jumping rope right outside my job on my lunch break. Like, that's a way to improvise. So just think about that.